I want to go now for the rest of the hour to Michael Allison and Christopher Drew. Michael Allison, of course, faced life in prison. The judge threw the case out on the Constitution, agreed, because they had the precedent of all the other judges' rulings and common sense. But the state still wanted Allison life in prison. Now, here's the Daily Mail. Chicago artist protest backfires as he faces 15 years in jail because he recorded his own arrest on video. And joining us is activist Chris Drew. Chris, thank you for coming on with us today.
Hi, welcome.
Briefly, tell us about why you're protesting, what you're facing, and I guess since you have lung cancer, this is their little way of trying to help you out.
Yeah, they gave me a 2-month delay so I could get better from lung cancer. They were being very generous. Well, I was arrested for selling art for $1 on State Street. That's a misdemeanor, of course, but they decided because I was protesting a law that would make the city better by allowing artists to make a living in public, that I deserve something more than just a misdemeanor. So they found a recorder, an audio recorder. And now, you should realize that I had a team with me that was documenting this. I had another female artist who...
Sure, you were recording to protect yourself. You're in public. You have a right to protect yourself. It's your office out there on the street.
I had another artist videotaping and audio taping the whole thing. And they didn't arrest her. They arrested me on selling art for $1 and then charged me with a Class 1 felony. Now, that's a malicious prosecution because that Class 1 felony aspect of the Illinois law doesn't read for taping a conversation between a citizen and a police officer. It's for spying on the justice system. It reads for audio recording a conversation between a police officer.
Sir, we know it's unconstitutional. It's been thrown out over and over again. The point here is, though, they're trying to keep people from selling things on the street because you're only allowed to buy stuff from big box stores.
Right.
Just like they're going after lemonade stands all over the country and arresting little kids, and you can't have a garden in your front yard. Right. And a judge in Wisconsin has ruled, I've got that article coming up later, that you're not allowed to grow your own vegetables. They say under the police power, you don't have that right. So we understand they're tyrants. But specifically, tell us where this is going with the 15 years you face.
Well, they're continuing, in spite of the fact that another judge has called it unconstitutional, they're continuing to prosecute my case. And we'll probably have a trial in November or certainly before February of next year.
Now, you're right. It is malicious prosecution. It's also official oppression. It is racketeering because they know that the statute that you just read is for spying on the justice system. That would mean planting a bug in the district attorney's office.
Exactly.
or something like that. Not having video or audio in your own car or there at a demonstration. Obviously, they're trying to punish you for your political action.
Exactly.
For your speech.
Definitely. And there's no better example of that. I'm an artist selling art on the street. That's the most protected activity in this country, according to the First Amendment.
And according to Supreme Court rulings.
Right. We have to fight for those rights.
Well, it's your freedom of expression. I mean, they're hitting you on so many fronts, and I know there's federal lawsuits by some over this, but we need to go ahead and see these police and others charged for the fact they're trying to frame citizens.
Especially the prosecutors, because the prosecutors are the ones who brought this in the city of Chicago. In order to prosecute a felony, the prosecutors make that decision. The policemen did not make that decision. It took them 4 hours to decide to prosecute me on that Class 1 felony. That officer had no decision-making power in that.
Yeah, but he clearly triggered it. He clearly triggered it by saying, because you were recording it, that you were somehow bad.
Oh, yeah, he's a participant in it. But
no, he's a participant in trying to destroy this country.
Yeah. But this is a machine city, and the decision was made by the machine, and the officer was just, if they decided another way, if they decided as they did in another case where the officer, the tape of the officer hit the newsstand before they got to it, they decided to, in that case, discipline the officer. So it's a decision made, at least in Chicago. Now, the Frobe case, that was a decision by the officer. But in Chicago, those decisions are made by the prosecutor, the Cook County State's attorney.
Yeah, but we know Chicago is famous. There's no corruption in the police or the government.
Right. That's exactly right. They're all one. And if you want the news on corruption, it all comes from them.
No, I know. They wrote the book on it. In fact, the Chicago mob model of 1313 with the double set of books where you have city budget and then all the real money, that was adopted in the 50s by the entire country and the Federal Reserve. And that's where they've stolen about 85% on average of our tax money to their offshore accounts. It's all public. I mean, this government has just been operating in criminal for so long, and Chicago really taught us how, along with New York. But I mean, how long will the people of Chicago put up with this? How long will the people of Illinois put up with this? I mean, how much criminality will you put up with by government?
Well, that's a good question, and that's why we're making a big issue out of this, because this is a prime example of, this is a line in the sand for the people to react to. The young people are not going to stand for this. If they convict me, this issue is only going to grow. And even whatever they do, they cannot paper over it, because young people have cell phones in their hands, and they intend to use them. There is no way that this state and this city is going to tell young people that they can't protect themselves in court with the truth and from public on the street. And so it's just going to come up again and again and again.
But the system is so arrogant, they don't know that they're destroying themselves in the eyes of the people. That's what always happens in corruption. The corrupt finally take everything over, then they think they're invincible and start really spitting in people's face.
Well, that's Chicago here. They think they're invincible here.
They start really rubbing it in. And it's at that point that tyranny starts to really get resisted, and then they even start attacking more, and then it explodes, and it's all over for the tyrants.
Well, that's why I call Chicago the ground zero for this issue in the nation, because they're the worst in the nation. It has the worst law in the nation. They're prosecuting it in the worst possible manner, and the people in Chicago are more and more understanding that they must change city law.
Well, it's come out in the news, as you know, in Chicago, that cops will walk in and say to a bar and say, "I like your wife. Come, go over here and give me service, or I'm gonna bust this place." And they just say, "Here's my wife," and the cops just openly deal the drugs. I talked to Aaron Russo, who had the famous club there that Led Zeppelin and others were playing at, and they came in and said, "Pay me protection money," and they kept coming and saying more, 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 and finally the cops just opened their own club, came in, beat everybody up, and shut it down, and then took Aaron and tortured him, and then said, "It's our club now," because they opened one down the street. I mean, and the people just put up with it, because it's Al Capone. America is run by the spirit of Al Capone.
Well, people have to make a change.
And, of course, you got the daily mob boss. Now they've handed it over to the Israeli commander, Rahm Emanuel, to be your ruler. We're going to go to break, and I want to come back with you, and I want to get to Michael Allison. What do you think of his case? He was facing life in prison.
That's totally absurd. Totally absurd, for asking the right to have a fair court trial, to be able to document the public record, for the public record, what's happening in court and what's happening in public.
Yeah, that was one of his charges. He kept asking for a court reporter with them stealing his cars, for those who just tuned in. He walked in with a recorder and said, "Your Honor, I'm going to record this for the record." And they arrested him and said, "Life in prison, buddy." Okay, we're going to come back with the artist gentleman we're talking to, Christopher Drew, evil thought criminal, and then Michael Allison, another wicked thought criminal. Now, the judge threw it out, but the state's saying they're going to probably bring it back. They want him to spend life in prison because this country is run by criminals. Well, the ATF just got caught shipping guns and drugs in. You know, I've seen a lot of Hollywood science fiction movies that attempt to portray a future world where the police are absolute gang member thugs, things like Clockwork Orange and others. But if you've actually been in Chicago or you've been in New York City, when you actually see these cops, they look sullen, angry, on power trips, arrogant, rude to people. I mean, I've been in third world countries, and the cops don't act like this. And I've been in third world countries and seen seedy, criminal type. I mean, it's just like when you're in some, you know, gas station in the middle of nowhere at night, you pull over and there's a pool hall right next to it, and there's kind of scummy ex-con looking people. You're like, oh, you can see it in them. They're into darkness, they're into corruption, and you see these cops, it's like, man, these are criminals. I mean, one look at them, hats back on their head, bellies hanging out, we walk around, and you just even kind of look at them, they just look at you like, yeah, I'm a criminal. I mean, it is just, whoa. It's so creepy. It's so humiliating. And I've seen people in New York. I've done it myself when I hadn't been there many times. It was like, hey, officer, you know where this is, please? And they just, do I look like a phone book? I mean, they want you to know this country's our scum. And we got your guns, and we're going to get your bank account. I mean, it is, to live as slaves is really sick. And I'm not going to live as one. So when the cops have done that to me in New York, I've said, you know what? You can go ahead and arrest me if you want, but I'm a human being. You're treating me like trash. A few times I didn't want to get arrested early on at the RNC, so you can see the footage of that in Police State. Film I made, martial law, 911 rise in Police State, where I'm like 100 yards away from one of the holding facilities, and a cop goes, who are you? Get out of here, I'll arrest you. And I went ahead and, well, they were trying to get one of my guy's face, and I said, officer, I'm the one that told him to tape. Was I talking to you? Just loving to let you know you are trash. Oh, my gosh. And it goes to the heart of things that in 12 states now, cop pulls you over, you get your camera out. They're like, why are you doing that? To document this. Get out, you're going to jail. And I've seen it with women with kids in the car. They call CPS, take the kids. Cop loves the kids crying, going on that van away. Those cops just get charged up. Sometimes you'll see the squad car video while they're in the back of the car, and they'll go, now you're feeling good, huh? In the back of the car, showing you who's boss now. And weird things where they pull a guy over, and the guy goes, officer, I have a, shut up. Officer, I have a, officer by a law, shut up or I'm going to beat you. 5 minutes later, get out, I'm searching the car. Officer, I have a concealed carry. I'm going to blow your head off. 15 minutes later, got him in the back. I ought to kill you right now. I think I might just kill you. Please don't kill me. Yeah, I think I will. You're supposed to tell me you got a gun. I mean, that was what, in Ohio? I mean, just crazy people. I think I played clips of that a month or two ago. I mean, and there's so many of these videos, I can't even show them all to you. All right, I know I'm ranting. We're going to hold you guys 5 minutes in the next hour. I got a bunch of news to get to. But Michael Allison, they still may bring the charges back up. It was dismissed. I shouldn't even say thrown out of court. But the charges weren't dropped. It was thrown out of court by the judge. You still could face life in prison. What do you think and we're going to come back and get your comment on it. What do you think of Christopher Drew for recording his own demonstration, facing 15 years?
I've talked to Mr. Drew about his case, and whenever I started digging into the fact that this thing even existed, I started trying to find out all the information I could, and I ran across his case.
Well, stay there. Let's talk about it more in 60 seconds.